How's it going, guys? So this video we're going to be doing this. We're going to be creating this exact scene using True Terrain 4.0. Please make sure that you've got the most recent patches installed and they'll be available in your downloads. So let's get straight to it. So we're going to be using Nodescapes to generate this terrain, but I will leave a copy of this model file in our Discord channel, and I'll link that down below in the video description, so you can grab this, join the channel, say hello to everyone, and keep up to date with everything. So this model that we're going to use now is in Nodescapes, and if you've got Nodescapes installed, then you can use the Nodescapes integration, click on Crescent Island, and you just click execute preset. If none of these are shown, just click this little button to refresh all the presets. So let's get this on the road. So we've got our terrain, and with Nodescapes enabled, we can manipulate this as much as we want. But we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to leave this as it is. And we're going to start adding some materials and things. So let's first of all just check the item. So the dimensions are 1 meter. We're going to scale this up by just 100 for now and apply that scale so that we've got something like 62 meters tall and 150 by 150 meters, which seems like it should be all right for this. So let's head back to our True-VFX True Terrain panel. And we're going to head to materials. So we're going to head into rendered view. And for this, I'm using experimental mode, the experimental feature set, cycles and GPU compute. I'll explain why I'm using experimental in a minute. But we're going to just set up our lighting first so we can get some decent lighting going on. Okay, that seems fine. Yeah, we do use physical atmosphere because the lighting created by this is just far superior to anything else out there, in my opinion. This is not a personal plug for this add-on. I'm just saying this is what we use because it is brilliant. So let's head back to the True-VFX panel. Now, myself, I've got the ultimate version, so what I'm going to be doing is just using some of the materials that I know are across all of them. So we're going to head over to the grassland and we're going to drop just a grass material in as our base material for ground. And I'm going to head over to the special and turn the anti-tile on, so we've got no more tiling of that texture. I'm going to leave the scale, no, I'm going to increase the scale, so texture scale I'm going to go to about 20, just so it can be a little bit smaller. And I don't really care about the resolution of this, so I'm going to leave this at the 1K resolution, because with it being tiled so small, you won't really see any breakdown of the resolution. So I'm going to add a shader and go to normal strength and just increase the normal strength on there so we can get a bit of fake geometry. Yeah, cool. And now I'm going to add a ground secondary. So we're going to click on that and click to use. And we're going to click, again, let's head over to grassland and let's use probably one of the dirts or something. So let's find a dirty one. Yeah, okay. And you won't see anything just yet. So what we're going to do is head to the blend settings tab. We're going to head down to transform and we're going to set the size of this up to something like 5. And then our patches, going to increase the mask expansion. Actually, we're going to head into the mask view. So we're just going to preview this mask so we can see what's going on. Increase the fall off. Increase the size to something like 15. Reduce the mask expansion because I want the blacker bits to be out and softer, and leave the fall off. Yeah, okay. So mask expansion, leave that at 0, and let's increase the size of this to something like 35. Okay, and let's head back out of this preview. So now we can see we've got our secondary material blended in. So we're going to head to the settings, close the blend settings, and then head to the settings tab of this. Go to shader and just increase the normal strength to 1 for now. And we've got this broken up, and we're going to go to special and apply the anti-tile again. So we've got no more tiling of this. Okay, so we're happy with the ground. Let's head to cliffs. So we're going to click to use cliffs, and we're going to grab a grassland again, and we're going to grab probably a dark rock like this. Yeah, okay, maybe... No, let's add the grassland dark, which is the darkest one, and we're going to go to settings, shader, normal strength. I'm going to crank this one up to 2, just so I can see what's going on. Yeah, that'd be fine. We're going to go to map and set that to 15. Okay. Yeah, that seems okay for now. And I'm going to leave the anti-tile off for this, I think, for now. Let me just have a look. Yeah, we'll just leave that one off for now. And we're going to turn that into a 3K image, and we're going to add to Cliff's secondary. Click to use. Head over to our biome again, go back to grassland, and let's find something nice to put on here. Okay, so head to the blend settings. Let's just enable the preview mask, and we can see we've got not too much going on here. So let's head down into the blend settings, and we're using like a strata one for this, a scalar strata. Scale the noise. Let's just drop this down to something really small. 0.01 is nice for that. And let's increase the mask intensity, decrease the mask intensity even. So that should be okay where that is, I'm guessing. Let's come out of this and have a quick look. So we can see that it has overtaken. So let's just put this to 0.1 or something. Yeah, there we go. So now we can see our secondary rock underneath there. And let's go to settings of the actual material. Enable the 4K variant. Go to shader. Let's enable the normal strength. And let's head down to the mapping. Let's set the texture scaling to 20. Okay, that looks fine. Let's have a look. Let's put a camera in here in the scene. Let's just head out to render view for a second. Make sure we've got our camera enabled, and Control Alt and 0 will snap the camera to wherever you are, and then Shift and F or Shift and the little invert apostrophe just next to the number 1 key on your keyboard, depending on what key mappings you're using for Blender. So I just noticed my cursor's not selected to the right place. Let's put that in the world origin. Let's head to the camera settings and change the focal length to 30. And we're going to head back into walk mode, increase the speed, drop the camera down here somewhere like this. Maybe change that to 25 millimeters. Yep. And let's just check the lighting. So I'm just going to adjust my lighting for a moment. Change that to 45 degrees, 25 degrees. Yeah, that seems fine. Okay, so now we're going to start adding some particles in. So we're going to select the landscape again. Let's just hide. Actually, let's just hide all this stuff. What I want to do is just check the way the ground has blended onto the rocks. So Let me just create a render border. Right, okay, so the way the grass and the ground are blended onto the rocks, I'm not too fond of. So we're going to head to the blending tab just at the very top underneath add material. Going to change the ground coverage to 0.25, so a little bit more ground covered. And we're going to set the edge bleed to 1. No, let's have a look. 0.1. Soften that up and set that to 0.15. 0.25 for the edge bleed. Yeah, okay, that looks okay. This is looking fine with me. What we want to do is get rid of all of these hard geometry, but we'll do that in a moment. So let's head into the assets tab and let's start adding some things into this. So we're going to add some grass. I'm going to use great brome and add this grass, and you'll see that you can't really see much, but this is because this is the scale of this is relative to the actual mesh, so the grass scale is accurate, and then the mesh is obviously. So what we want to do is just increase the density a little bit, drop the distance to 0, and get the density set to something like 5. We're just going to increase the scale of the grass for just a moment so that we can see where everything is falling. Probably set the density to 2. Yeah, that looks fine. So we're going to head to the modifiers tab in the scatter section. We're going to make sure the grass is selected and we're going to add a modifier. So we're going to add a height mask, and you can determine where the minimum height and the maximum height are going to be. So I'm going to bring the minimum height up a touch, and I'm going to add the maximum height. So I want my grass to stop growing around here. But obviously this is quite a hard cutoff on both top and bottom. So we're going to swap from particles to vertex, which generates an automatic vertex map on the mesh. And we're going to change the fall off to 0.5 for the bottom and the fall off to 0.5 for the top, just to see what's going on. And I'm going to increase the top one to around 8, I guess. Yeah. And going to randomize the bottom edge a touch. Bring the minimum height up to here and increase the fall off a bit more. And I'm happy with this for now. So if you want to also, and you're finding that your viewport's still a little bit slow here, you can change the asset from a grass to just a point. So you can see the points now, and your viewport should speed up a significant amount. So we're going to close the height mask, and we're going to add a slope mask in. And what the slope mask does is it will work out the angles of all of the mesh, and you will then have a threshold that you can tell the grass to fall on. So it should only fall on a certain slope angle or a certain threshold. So I'm kind of happy with this, but I'm going to add the vertex option again, just so we can get a little bit of fall off going on. And let's have a quick look at this in rendered view. So snap back down here. Okay, we seem to have, yeah, it looking where we want it to. So I'm going to close this back over and come back from the modifiers tab to the scatter tab. And I'm personally going to just increase this for a moment, just to see what the grass fall looks like. So maybe just set this to 10 and see what happens. Okay, yeah, that's looking okay. And what I want to do now is just add some rocks. So I just want to scatter some rocks around, but I'm not going to use the automatic scattering system. I'm going to manually place the rocks where I want them. So we're going to head to rocks. Well, we've still got the terrain selected. I'm going to choose probably dark procedural rocks. Yeah, I'm going to use the click to place function. So before I do any of this, what I'm first going to just do is go to the scatter and enable this so the grass is out of the way. and I'm going to head back to place, and I'm going to auto parent so that when we move the mesh around, the rocks and things still stay. It'll just stop you from losing your rocks if you do accidentally move your mesh or something. Offset I'm going to leave as it is. Scale, we're going to randomize the scale. So I want the maximum scale to be 1.5 and I want the minimum scale to be 0.5. And rotation, we're going to rotate it along the normal and we're going to randomize everything. It's X, Y, and Z. And now we're just going to start clicking to place. You'll get a little notification down the bottom telling you. And yeah, I'm happy with where some of these are. Okay. And now we right click to disable everything, or to disable the actual object selection, object placement, sorry. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of happy with the way they are. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, sorry, put the rest of my particles on this. So we're going to head to rocks, add some big rocks. Yeah, add some big rocks. And we're going to use the same click to place setup. So I'm just going to put a big rock there, put a big rock there, put a big one here, big one there, big one there, big one there, and one underneath. And then probably going to stick some just around here. Yeah, this looks okay. Probably put a big one there, and a big one there, and a big one there. And then we're just going to right click again to turn that off. So let's head back to our camera view and let's just hide the outlines for a moment. There we go, we can see some of our rocks now. So I'm going to select this rock and just head to the shader and just turn off the subsurface scattering. There we go, yeah. And I'm going to head out of that and click one of the smaller ones and just turn off the subsurface scattering. Let's see, we got the mesh up then. There we go, yeah, cool. So they're all where they should be. And I'm going to add one more grass type in to the terrain. And we're going to go to grass and we're going to add some ferns or something like that. Let's have a look. And we're going to go back to the scatter option and we're going to click add grass. So we got our ferns there. But I want our ferns, so let's just increase the size of these even. Okay, and let's go to the modifiers tab and we're going to click a normal mask this time and we're going to just point where we want, what type we want. Turn the scatter off, reduce the minimum distance, and let's increase the density. Right, so we can see what the modifier is doing. So with this one, we click the eyedropper and we just pick a face angle, or just pick any face that we kind of want our grass to form across, and it'll form across any face of that exact angle. So I want the like, oh, like here somewhere, I guess. And I'm just going to increase the threshold a touch, change that to there. Okay, let's have a look at that. Reduce the threshold, go back to scatter, maximum scale, minimum scale, and we're going to add some rotation. Oh, randomize this rotation for a minute. And let's head back out of that and view. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. So let's go to the shader for our fan. And let's just add a little bit more freshness to this. Make it a little bit brighter. That's nice. Add some natural green variants, and let's reduce our freshness to 0.5. And let's randomize our variation a bit. Okay, actually, let's get rid of that. Let's add the age slider on instead. Let's set our freshness to 1. And we're gonna, I think we're gonna just live with that, with those colors for now. Okay, so I'm happy with all of the particle placement now. What I want to do is I want to give the terrain a bit more geometry and tidy it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to the shader tab, and we are going to come down to the subdivision options. And what we're going to do is we're going to enable the adaptive subdivision, not add a modifier, not add a subdivision modifier or subsurface modifier. We're going to enable adaptive subdivision. And this ties back to what we mentioned earlier about the experimental feature set. So what this will do is it'll allow us to create additional geometry where there formerly wasn't any. So we'll create an adaptive subdivision, and you'll get a little warning message saying this is a workaround function. And what this does is, because we're using geometry nodes, if we were to apply a subdivision modifier, the way geometry nodes works is that it will apply subdivision to every item that's on the scattering system. So to get around that, what we do is we create a second mesh, duplicate all of your scattered objects onto the second mesh, and with the current mesh, obviously the actual mountain, we delete all of the scatter items so that we can apply an adaptive subdivision. So we're going to enable that now. And what that'll do is your modifier stack will now have this instead of the particles, but don't worry, they're not gone. We've got the terrain geometry here where we can view all of our particles in the assets manager still, so don't worry about that. But let's just head back to terrain for now, and we're going to increase the material displacement, which is in the shader tab at the very bottom. We're going to increase that to 1, and then we're going to head into the settings of each material now, and we're going to go to the displacement strength, which is in the top of the shader panel, and it's the third one down. We're going to just increase that to 1 and see what happens. So okay, now we can see that we're getting a bit of an additional geometry here. So I want to increase that to maybe 2, I think. Let me have a look and see what happens. Right, we've created some more additional geometry. Great. So let's head to our nodes cliffs and do the same thing here. So we're going to change that from 0.05 to maybe 1.5 for this one. See what happens. Okay, yeah, it's expanded a little bit, but we've got a bit of what I like to call subdivision swelling. So what happens here is that the mesh expands a little bit. So you can see it's outside of its original outline, and we can fix this very easily by heading all the way back down to the material displacement tab, and we just change the mid-level, which is this one. And we're going to change it to something like 0.35 for now, and what that'll do is, oh, sorry, not 0.35, 0.55 for now. And that'll bring the mesh back in towards its original outline. So let's maybe go to 0.6. That's tightened it up a bit. So what we're going to do is head to the displacement mid-level in the individual shader. We're going to increase this to 0.4, 0.25, let's see, 0.25. Yeah, that's bringing it back in. So let's go to 0.15 and see what happens there. Right, yeah, we've tightened up the peaks again now. Great. So let's increase the displacement strength to 2. Right, we've got some more geometry. That's nice. And we're going to bring the displacement mid-level again down to 0.05, I think. Yeah, that should be okay. Now let's head to our ground materials that we did earlier. So we're going to head to the first ground one, which is just the grass. And we're just going to increase the displacement strength on this to 1 for now to see what happens. We can see we've got a lot of displacement there, so we're going to bring that down to something like 0.25 because we don't want that overly displaced the grass, because we've got some actual grass there anyway, so that'll cover most of that. And we're going to head into our secondary ground that we mixed into earlier, and this is this stuff, as you can see. Increase the displacement strength to 1 and see what happens. And there we go, we can see some of this. So this line here, this is an example of the anti-tile. If we remove the anti-tile, this cut line will disappear now, yeah. And this sometimes happens just because of the way the anti-tile works. It can create hard seams on some of the textures if you're using a high displacement amount. So textures that have got a lot of displacement built into them can cause this cutting effect, but I'm happy with the way that looks. So let's go back to our terrain's geometry mesh and click on that. And we're going to head to the scatter tab, the assets tab, and we're just going to enable our viewport visibility for our assets. So this is not going to be the dots anymore that we saw earlier. So okay, we've got some grass and we've got some ferns and things. That's looking nice. I think I want to probably change the color of the grass just a little bit. So I'm going to remove the green variance on this, and I'm going to bring the freshness down to just 1, and leave the age at 0. So it's just completely green like that, yeah. And I think that's probably okay for now. So we're going to head back out of rendered view. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to enable the point system again, so that we're not getting a slow viewport. And I'm going to add a couple of trees now. So I want to add some trees, and we're going to place these ones randomly again. So we're going to click place, but what we want to do is make sure the rotation for X and Y isn't random, and the scale. So let's just click to place 1. So those trees are probably a little small. So we're going to increase the minimum scale to 1 and the maximum scale to 1.75. And these trees have roughly, I think it's 2 variations for the light, 6 for Pro, and 15 different variations for the ultimate version. So we're going to go back to click to place and just check the size of this. Yep, and that's fine with me. So let's get rid of that one, Control Z that one away, and let's start clicking to place. So I want a tree here, and I want a tree here, and I also want to put a tree here and here next to it, and I'm going to put a tree just here, and I'm also going to put some trees here. So let's head back into the camera view for now, just so that we can start to place our trees and frame our, let's hide the viewport, the end panel, sorry. Let's just frame up our scene. Yep, I'm happy with where they are. And then we're just going to move to the top and just start putting some trees randomly up here, I guess. Big trees. And you can see that different trees are appearing. So they're all different shapes and sizes. Okay, and I'm probably going to put a bit more around this region. And I'm just going to right click to stop the placement. And I'm going to get rid of that tree because I don't like that there. And I'm probably happy with these. So let's head into our rendered view and just check how they light. So with the trees, because we're using geometry nodes, it allows us to add the leaves on as particles using Blender's old hair particle system. And what that means is that we can have quite resource optimized trees in the viewport, because we don't have to generate the leaves and the tree as a single mesh. So our trees and leaves are separate meshes, and we can see that our trees also animate. Obviously, animating in the viewport will get a little bit slow because they do all animate. But this is just a light breeze that applies to these trees. Nothing crazy. So I think I probably want to move this tree just because I'm not happy with the placement of that. So let's see if we can find somewhere to place that. I'm gonna delete this one instead, and I'm gonna move this one just along the x-axis. Let's head out of the rendered view. So just G and then Shift and Z to stop it from moving up on the Z-axis. And we're going to put this here, and this little tree, I'm just going to move a touch and rotate it. Oh, rotate it just on the Z a bit. Yeah, okay, so I think I'm happy with that. Let's see how it frames up in shot. I have to give it a moment to render out. Okay, I'm probably... Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with the way that looks. So one thing that we can do is we can select a tree mesh and head over to the materials, and we can see that we've got some materials that we can mess around with here. But if we head to the outliner, where are you? And you can see ash trees, true leaves, VFX medium. If we select the leaf, we can actually change the seasons. Now you only need to do this when you're using the placement option. If you're using the scatter option to scatter trees, then it'll be in the shader tab from earlier, like I showed you with the grass. So you'll still get under scatter, you'll still get scatter modifiers and shader tab, and the trees will have the bark material and the actual leaf material there, but it's not something that we can put in the UI because there's no, it's not part of, at this point, it's not part of the scatter system. They're all randomly scattered. So we'll just need to head into the actual leaf themselves, and you can see that up here in the outliner. If you can't find it, you just need to type leaves, and then you'll be able to view the material, and you can see that we've got seasons. You can randomize the seasons so that the yellow, red, and orange, or you can have them as just sort of autumny. And we've got some rain coverage stuff for the leaves too, which I don't really know if I'll be able to show you because we've got quite a lot of let's try and find a leaf. There we go. So let's render this leaf. And for the view, I'm just going to move it into like 150 millimeters. And just move myself forward a touch. I don't know if we can see them very well. If we increase the rain coverage to 1 or something, and change the droplet amount to 10, let's change it to 2, see if we can get some big. Yeah, I don't know if we can see that very well, but they're just sort of like here. Let's increase the droplet amount to something ridiculous and see if you can see the specularity. There we go. You can just about see them there and there. And can we increase our camera length a bit more? There we go. Yeah, so you can see our droplets there just caught in the shadow. So let's head back to our rendered view, and we're just gonna change our focal length back from like 200 to 50 mils or something like that, and select our terrain and head back to the camera shot. So I'm kind of comfortable with how this is all looking at the minute. I'm going to change my leaves back to just normal green leaves. And I'm going to render this out and then come back to you once it's rendered, guys. So sorry, before we render it out, what I want to quickly just talk you through is optimizing this now for rendering. So we're going to head to our render properties panel and head down to the subdivision tab. So for dicing render, I'm going to render this at 4K. Oh, by 2160. And I'm going to head back here and I'm going to increase the dicing render to 4. So every 4 pixels will generate geometry. And I'm going to reduce the maximum subdivisions to 10. And what I want to do, actually, I'm going to set that to 3. And what I'm going to do is go on our terrain mesh and head to the modifier. I'm going to set this to 1.5 or something like that. No, we'll go to 2, right? Because we don't need this whole thing to just create an awful amount of geometry. It's going to look awesome as it is with this. And we're going to just set our dicing camera. So these should just be the settings that you'll need to render this all now. Off-screen scale, we can increase this to something like 50, and what that'll essentially do is it'll tell everything that's not in the render to only dice every 50 pixels or 100 pixels. So this will optimize how much geometry is actually created outside. It can get a little bit funky if you're messing with reflective surfaces, because you'll see the low resolution geometry and reflections, but we shouldn't need to worry too much about that in this situation. So yeah, I'm just going to stick this onto render now, guys, at 4K, and then I will get back to you. Right, guys, here it is, our final render in 4K. So we've got quite a lot of pixels to play with. I did go back just while the video was cut and threw some depth of field on and moved the big tree that was here to here just to frame up the image a little bit better. But yeah, I think it came out quite well. So that should, following along obviously with the video, should get you to this point or somewhere close. If you've got any questions, drop me a comment in the comment section or join our Discord channel, which you can find just here in the chat with us section of the add-on and the documentation. You can find there online, and all our tutorials will be posted in through this link, so you'll be able to access any of our tutorials just here. So yeah, that's that one, guys. I will see you in the next one.